We want to welcome everybody to this workshop and roundtable kind of meeting tonight for the purpose of discussing the plan by the Caldwell Chamber of Commerce to contract with Roger Brooks in relation to the proposed district located north of the downtown area. And we've got Travis Palmer from the Chamber of Commerce who's going to be presenting tonight. And welcome, Travis. Why don't you come on up to the front?
Is it right if I hand out a packet to everyone?
Very good. Thank you. Thank you. Thanks.
Stephen, do you have this? Well, I'll keep one up here then. Okay, well, first of all, thank you very much for giving us some time. I thought I'd start out just simply by saying who are we and why are we here, how did we get here? So my name's Travis, I'm the director of the Caldwell Chamber of Commerce, and shortly after I was hired on to take the director position, Bob Carpenter came and paid me a visit and was telling me a lot about the history of Caldwell, and we pretty quickly got into the history of Indian Creek Plaza and how the chamber was a major role in having Indian Creek come to life. So that when Roger Brooks, his company Destination Development Association, was hired, that all went through the chamber. So it was a really educational experience for me, and we had a lot of good conversation, and it led to more conversations. And so Bob asked if I would attend another meeting with him and a couple other people, and so pretty quickly it was a meeting with Bob and myself and Bob Jenkins and Rob Pilot, and we just kind of started talking with no real agenda other than they had history. I was the new guy in town, but I had position, if so to speak, and we just wanted to talk about what we love about Caldwell and how to make it better and how we can all contribute to the betterment of the community. So oftentimes, I mean, these meetings started shortly after I started, which is a year and a half ago. So we're well over a year into these meetings now. But one of the things that was kind of a recurring theme was we talked a lot about the lack of unity in Caldwell, the lack of understanding about what this, who was doing this project and what it really was, and the scuttlebutt on Facebook and all the things that happen when people don't understand or when there's not unity about the vision and what people are trying to actually do. So we just, we kept coming back to the question of what can we do to help? What are we in the position to contribute? How can we affect change in a positive way? With the experience of the people in the room and the positions that we're all in, what could we do? It didn't take us long to decide we really needed to bring in Danae from Destination Caldwell, so she started attending our meetings as well. We also brought in from time to time different people just to get different perspectives on different things. Dave came to one of our meetings early on. We had a few others that we'd come and we'd ask them questions, give us your expertise, tell us what you think about this, and so forth. But the thing we kept coming back to was that the initial concept of when Roger Brooks came, they created the Downtown Action Plan, which had about 62 different items on it. When Roger came here and they said, these are all the different things that you can do as a community to make Caldwell a thriving community. And we looked at the list, and a lot of those we had done very well. I mean, in the last 10 years, Caldwell has successfully changed the conversation about Caldwell. It is completely different the way people talk about Caldwell today versus how they talked about us 10, 15, 20 years ago. And I think it's a good thing. Some of that momentum, though, I think after we had a lot of success from the creation of Indian Creek Plaza has been lost. And it's not to anybody's fault. Nobody's doing anything wrong per se. But in the last, I think, 5 years, we've had new mayor, new police chief, new fire chief, new department heads, 3 new chamber directors. I mean, on and on and on. the entire guard has changed, and there's been a massive loss of institutional knowledge. Not by design, but just by happenstance. And I think that is how we have lost some of the momentum and the vision that we have all had at some point about Caldwell and its future. So that's kind of the theme of what we would talk about and what kept bringing us back to Roger. And so we said, look, what can we do to help? And we decided we'd pool our own funds. We raised $5,000 and we brought Roger Brooks back to say, what can, what's the state of Caldwell now versus when you were here so many years ago? What do you think we as a community can be doing? And so we put our money together and we brought him back and we toured him all over the city. We had a full day of meetings with him. We showed him all the little nooks and crannies of Caldwell, and he said, guys, you have done a good job. There's still a lot of work to do, but Caldwell can be an absolute gem, not just of the Treasure Valley, not just of Idaho, but Caldwell really is poised to be the gem of the whole Pacific Northwest. There is so much potential that we wanted to, it really confirmed a lot of the things that we had been talking about time and time again. So, we also looked into the comprehensive plan and some of the other things that were happening, and it just so happens that the Caldwell comprehensive plan actually calls for an update to the downtown plan, and this fits it perfectly. And going back to the original concept, it said right in the Roger Brooks plan originally, have me come back every 3 to 5 years to do just a temperature check. How are things on track? Have you taken things off your list because it doesn't make any sense? Let's do an update to that list of plans. That was supposed to happen every 5 years. We're now, I think, on year 8, or at least partway through year 7, and we hadn't ever had him come back. So that was why we really said it's time to bring him back. Let's do that course correction. Let's see where we stand. Getting to where we are today. What we're trying to do now is we are requesting from City Council the approval of some funds to support bringing him back for a major project. Another 6 to 8 months is what he's estimating. We have financial commitments from Destination Caldwell. We already have, when it goes before council, we believe that the money, they know where it's going to come from. It's coming out of this budget, so we don't have to wait till the next budget year. And we've already committed for our group to come up with an additional $10,000 from the community to show that this has universal community buy-in. And really, that's the most important thing and what kept us coming back to Roger time after time after time. Because we interviewed with other consultant groups, other development agencies, and we said, because we didn't initially say, let's just bring Roger back. We said, okay, we like what happened here. We've never done a course correction, but let's not necessarily just say, is Roger the one? Who else could do the same thing? And so we did our due diligence and we looked at some other people, but we kept coming back to Roger because what Roger does that kind of makes him special with what we want to do is he's a consensus builder. He creates unity. He doesn't come up with a plan for Caldwell. He comes up with a plan with Caldwell. We have a laundry list of organizations, departments, citizen groups that we will bring in if we get the approval to do all this, so that every entity of our community will have the opportunity to feel heard, to feel like they've contributed, and that they understand the vision that we're all creating together. It's not some out-of-town consultant creating something for us. It's the consultant creating something with us. And that's what we think sets this apart and what makes it special. So, I want to keep this short so we can answer as many questions as we can, but all of you have the proposal in front of you. We wanted to come before you tonight because, we've met with individually at some point every single member of the council to just answer questions. The rumor mill runs deep, so we wanted to make sure we were having questions. We have not met with all of you individually yet, so we wanted to come before you and present what we're doing, give you some background, and just say, what would you like to know? And would you support this effort that we're trying to put together? So with that, most of our group is here. I'll stand for questions, and we'll do our best to answer whatever we can.
Great. Thank you, Travis. Mr. Moore?
Mr. Chairman, thank you. And thank you, Travis, for coming here today with the committee. And thank you for giving me a copy of this ahead of time, and I was able to go through it. I don't know, I highlighted, went through it, I had some questions wrote down on it, and I couldn't find it today. It's somewhere in my office in the stack. But I appreciate that heads up. So I guess my first question that I have is, what commitment from the community outside of 10,000, if there would be, or is there, what kind of what's the plan to gather that, should that 10 grand increase to another figure? What's the plan there? And then my second footnote to that is, as the Caldwell Chamber, and I'm part of that board, as you know, you and I, you guys are doing quite a bit of the legwork. You're doing quite a bit of the heavy lifting of this thing here and hosting. You know, and I don't see where that's gonna set with the board of, we're just gonna donate all that. I mean, I know we're working as hard and diligently and smart as we can, but what would you propose on that too?
So, all but a portion of it, which we looked at what a typical management fee would be, because the chamber ran, you know, the original program through our office before, and that's kind of how it came back to us again, because we're a pretty neutral organization. We don't take sides politically. We don't endorse candidates. We don't get involved in any of that. We just want good things for the community, and we want to support the businesses in the community. So we've researched management fees. They can range, you know, as high as 10 and 12%. I felt like that was too high. I brought it down to somewhere between, you know, 5 and 7%. So we're going to hit right around 6% of the total cost that will go to the chamber, because it'll be our staff setting up the public meetings, making sure the room's available, helping put word out, that kind of stuff. So we will take a modest management fee, but it's very, very small.
So outside of that $10,000, if we need to raise it from the community, what's your plan for that? Let's say that this bill, we get a bill for 18,000 and we're 8,000 light. What do you propose on that?
So I don't anticipate that happening, because we've got a pretty hard number from Roger and what he is going to charge. And so what we did is we took that number and we just added the percent, and that's the total that we're coming up with. So between what the city's contributing towards the project, what Destination Caldwell, and what our group has agreed to gather from various areas of the community, we know what that total goal number is.
Yeah.
And that's what we're going after.
Okay, well, that's good to know, yeah. And I you know, being a Lion, and I know there's a few other of us in the civic clubs that are sitting here today, gosh, I think we'd probably want to chip in on that deal too, because it's a benefit to
Honestly,
us all.
the more organizations that will contribute, even if it's $100,
Yeah,
that shows community buy-in. To me, the optics of the entire community saying, I'll give, even if it's just $100, I'll give to this effort, that says a lot, because the optics are truly what Caldwell needs right now.
Yeah.
We need a unified vision, we need consensus, and we need the community to buy into an idea, because right now it seems like no matter who proposes what, there's already an angry mob somewhere on one side of the spectrum or another ready to fight it. And it's because there's no vision. We need a plan. We need the community to work together to see a vision that all of us can understand. Everybody might not get their way, but if we say that the process is good because the community was involved and everybody had their chance to put in, and even if they got overruled, it's the community that said this is what we want as a whole, we think that's going to be a huge win for Caldwell.
well, I always said, you know, if Destination Caldwell had something on their website where I could donate $100, because people come to town and they spend money, and they spend money with me, and they spend money with all of us, and you ask them where they're headed, well, we're going to go downtown and get lunch.
Yeah.
So we're headed to the plaza. So I think that was always an idea of mine that I thought, gosh, if I can donate back to that and make it, you know, versus dropping off a check at the office to donate, I thought that might be an idea. My other question, if Roger's coming here and there's revisits, is that included in the original 168 total? Or, you know, let's say he's got a thing in there, a clause, and I need to be back in 5 years and it's gonna cost another 32 grand and I'm not staying anywhere but a Hilton.
Yeah, so
Who pays for that?
I understand what you're saying. The cost is more likely to be around 4,000 to 5,000 for those revisits, because that's what we paid when we had him come back and do a one-day retreat with us. But he can actually, depending on your budget, he can do more or he can do less. So, you know, when he came out originally back in 2015, I believe, I think it was 85,000 to do a focused area just on what we now know as the Indian Creek Plaza. Now we're looking at a much larger area in today's dollars, so the cost is significantly more. But we're
Yeah.
talking, you know, he says 6 to 8 months. I always like to overshoot on expectations, so I'm thinking more like 8 to 10 months, you know, yeah, but
Yeah, okay.
yeah, it's a good amount of time.
Travis, let me
But
ask
to
you.
revisit in 3 years or 5 years from now,
Yeah.
I'd say even with those future dollars, it should be less than 10,000 to bring him back again and do those look backs and course corrections that we're talking about.
Yeah, and then put in inflation and all that, so I get you.
I'd
So,
rather aim high and then
Yeah.
have it come in less than tell
Sure.
you a low number and then have it be
Sure.
double that.
last question. What do you see the role of URA as a partner? What does you and the group see, our role partnering with this group? Tell us more about that.
So I think a lot about, and if any of the members of my group want to, you know, interject, they can, but I think a lot of what we're trying to do really falls in alignment with what URA is designed to do. I mean, URA is designed to be a tool to handle blight and make improvements and revitalize and revive a community. We're just trying to provide the community vision that this group can actually use as a litmus test to say, are we on track with what we're talking about doing? The early indications of what we've talked about with Roger and what we're hearing that URA is exploring, I mean, they're almost identical footprints. They're not mutually exclusive from one another. They don't have to be a your part, our part. I think we can actually, our goal is to be an asset to URA, to planning and zoning, to the streets department, to all the different organizations. This is just an enhancement to what they're doing that helps to say, look, we're on track because the community said this is what they wanted, and we're putting our effort into these baskets, and these things are in alignment.
Okay. I think, you know, the original URA that we had here, gosh, it's been told to me it's as high as $250 million went into this down in here of taxpayer money. So I'm sure that can help expedite somebody's plans, you know, when they're doing this. But I'm just curious. So I think that's all I have. So thank you, Travis.
All right.
Tom?
Yeah, so I think maybe Dave asked the question that I'm going to ask. I'm not quite sure. I'll ask it a little bit differently, but I'm the newest member of the commission here, and I don't have all the history that you folks have. This is kind of like the first time I've heard of this. So let's go back to Genesis 1:1, if you could, and let's kind of give me a, you know, connect the dots, if you would, the Cliff Notes version of that, you know, why you're here in front of the URA, and maybe you've already answered that, but
So maybe you can restate the question, because I want to make sure I answer what you're truly asking. I'm sorry.
why are you here?
So, well, because we want, I guess we want URA to know that we're not going to do anything that's going to be a roadblock for you, that we want to enhance your efforts. And, you know, URA is probably near the top, if not at the top of the list for when we, in this plan, we want to create a group of stakeholders to incorporate all the different perspectives and viewpoints in the community. URA is one of those groups that we want to incorporate into the vision keepers, if you will, so that, you know, you'll be a part of this process. We want Roger talking to you guys as soon as possible to make sure that what he's doing is in alignment with what you're doing and vice versa. I don't know if that answered your question, though.
Mr. Oldfield?
Yeah, Travis, good evening. I'm curious this has been out in the public for a little while now, that this is the plan. And I'm curious what the feedback you've received so far. And I kind of want to preface that with Roger's whole business is growth and momentum and things like that. And we have a vocal portion of our society that wants us to turn growth off right now.
Sure.
We need to stop it. And so I'm sure you're getting maybe some negative feedback. I'm just kind of curious as to what
Well, I think that's the natural knee-jerk reaction when people are worried about the growth. You know, I mean, we're in some ways a victim of our own success, right? Caldwell was kind of a sleepy little community for a long time, and then we did this thing, and it was so great in a lot of ways, but now all of a sudden, everybody wants to be here, which, so we have got new problems. But the discussion about growth is that Caldwell has already been discovered, and we cannot keep ourselves a secret, and the people are coming whether we want them or not. The question is, how do we manage the waves of people that are coming, whether it's to visit or to live? How can we plan to make sure that we can accommodate those, but in the way that keeps Caldwell Caldwell? Caldwell's very special, and people are very, very attached to making sure that we don't lose what makes Caldwell great. And I think that a process like this is needed so that we can manage the growth that is coming. Because if we don't manage it, it's going to land on us, and it may not turn out the way we want or need it to. So we're trying to do this as a way to grow smart, to grow strategically, not necessarily to just say grow, 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 but to say the freight train's coming, and what are we going to do to either guide it, get on board, or get out of its way?
Is that kind of been the response you've got, that people are willing to listen to that, or?
I think when they understand we're not just trying to turn Caldwell into some, either sprawling housing development that's nothing but housing, or some giant metropolis, or Boise 2.0. I mean, that's not the goal at all.
Right.
It's to say, it was really interesting. I got to hear Stephen present at the BAD conference on some of the history of Caldwell. And when way back in the day in Caldwell's history, this was the hub of activity in the Treasure Valley. Mm-hmm. It got moved east to Boise, but we're seeing that activity hub and that center is moving back towards us for a lot of different reasons, right? So again, how do we make sure that we're trying to manage that in a smart and constructive way where our citizens feel like they understand it and that they can actually have a voice in how we guide that growth?
Perfect, thank you, Travis.
Mr. Doty?
Hey, thank you. Hey, Travis, how's it going?
Good, how are you?
Good. So you seem quite confident that Roger Brooks is going to come back on the agenda. You have a couple of counselors up there. We haven't heard another word about it since we heard about it the first time. So
That's
is
another
the
reason
mayor-
why we're here.
Is the mayor sharing something with you that we're unaware of? Is it going to show back up on an agenda? If so, we haven't heard anything.
As of Thursday or Friday, I can't remember, as of last week, so there wasn't a whole lot of time for you to have known this yet, but I did request that as long as we can get the MOU between the city and the chamber and the contract between the chamber and Roger Brooks' organization approved at our board meeting on Wednesday, provided that gets approved and we're doing everything we can and all indications indicate that we think we can get it done, we want to be on the next available agenda. So yes, we have requested to be on the agenda at the very next council meeting.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Any other questions? Mr. Moore?
One last one. So I'm a direct beneficiary of urban renewal in this downtown and grew up down here as a kid and been all over it. So I appreciate what's done, and I know there's some people here tonight that have paid into this extensively, a heck of a lot more than I'm paying into it right now. But I think it's a future of the way to manage it, and it can only go up if we manage it correctly. So you had an experience, you and I have talked, you've had a little bit of experience with Roger Brooks in your past living out of state and working out of state. Would you mind sharing that with us?
Yeah, so, Roger Brooks, he's worked in, I think it's something like 2,200 cities around the country, and probably Canada as well. But where I was a chamber director for 8 years, I grew up in Boise, but I left the state for a job to be a chamber director in Oregon for 8 years. And the town that I was at had actually had Roger Brooks come in and do a big project there, and they created a group called the Vision Keepers. That's where I stole the name from, because I couldn't think of a better one at the time. But what it was a group of community stakeholders that after he had come and gone, they had set a group that said, we need somebody, a representative from the city, from the chamber. You know, they had all kinds of different organizations in Caldwell that were different community stakeholders, and they created a seat for each of those, plus some community at large members. And they would meet on either a quarterly or semi-annual basis to say, here's what, in Cottage Grove, it was called Vision 2037. And because 25 years from the day that they made that plan with the community, 25 years from then that was 2037, so that's where that came from. But anyway, they created a group called the Vision Keepers, and we met on a regular basis. And if, you know, when I left, the new chamber director took that seat because they wanted to preserve the group vision and the consensus from all the different community stakeholders. And they didn't want to lose any one viewpoint that would be important down the road. Yeah, so it was a great experience. When I heard that Roger Brooks had done that, I have a book sitting in my office that I took with me when I left Cottage Grove, because it was about, you know, destination development and, you know, planning with your community and things like that. And so I was really excited when I heard that he was the one responsible, because I had some experience with him. And that's why I think this also works too for, you know, of all the places that we talk to, all the different consulting groups, Roger has a proven success story that everybody can walk on, see, touch, feel, stand in, because it was right here and we could see it. And it's easy to identify with that, whereas none of the others had that same sort of connection that the community could easily identify with. That's why we thought that was our best foot forward.
Well, Travis, I appreciate Destination Caldwell, the committee, the business owners that are here, that are on that committee, that support this, and I appreciate you taking it on. So anything I can do to help you, I'd sure like to hear.
Thank you.
So thank you.
Ms. Warwick? Oh, excuse me.
Hi, Travis.
Hi.
Unlike a couple of the other folks on the board, I've been here kind of since the beginning. And, you know, our initial focus with Urban Renewal way back when was Sky Ranch, you know, to bring in industry to bulk up our tax base, to help with that sort of thing. We kind of, you know, moved to downtown a little bit while still continuing out there. And as far as I'm concerned, the plaza is a miracle of downtown, and that happened. I mean, Urban Renewal played a very small part in that. It was the people who envisioned it, and, you know, one of them sitting right there, Kelly Jenkins, you know, is amazing. Carrie Smith is another one. You know, due to their vision, that happened, and then Urban Renewal was able to participate in construction around the city to help support some of that kind of stuff. We don't have as many spots in the city, the downtown core, that need Urban Renewal attention at this point, which is why we've kind of branched out now to the north area to try to bring in more industry once again, to kind of go back to the roots of Sky Ranch to, you know, bulk up tax base. And we're looking real heavily at North Caldwell downtown, because that area has truly been neglected for so long, and they need our help. So is your intention for Roger Brooks, are you going to be focusing mainly on downtown, what we think of as downtown, or more the whole city core?
So it's going to be a much larger area than just downtown, and there should be a map in your packet too, but to give you kind of a quick explanation so you don't have to go flipping through all the pages, it's essentially radiating out from the core that we've created, that central hub, but it's radiating mostly north from downtown, because, you know, cities have to kind of grow from the center out, right? So if you look at the area that we've identified that we think is ripe for this type of visioning process, it very closely matches what you guys are working on. That's why, I guess, now that I'm understanding your question, why are we here? We think it aligns really well with what you're doing, and we hope that your Urban Renewal will embrace talking to Roger and give him your feedback, and you know, be willing to listen to, you know, some of the wisdom from the communities that he's worked with, and I guess trust his process in involving the community and yourselves as well. But, you know, counties on our list as well, different city departments, different organizations. We have a laundry list of people that we want to make sure we include.
Thank you.
Thank you, Julie. It is 6 o'clock, but we also want to give people in the audience a chance to speak to this issue. If you've got something to say, come on up to the microphone and we will listen. And if you have a question for Travis, he can step to the mic and address that. Thank you. Anybody with a comment? Okay.
Good evening, Commissioners. Chuck Stodick, 13419 Cedar Park Drive, Caldwell. I was here since 1977. I was here before the crash on our businesses downtown, and I was here afterwards. And I think it would be foolish for us not to consider Mr. Brooks to come back again and do a thorough investigation of what he can do for this area. And that would also include the north side. I would hate to see you folks split that up. South side, north side, west side, east side. I mean, I think he needs to look at the whole area on what we can do. And with his expertise, and I think Travis covered that quite well, if you look at the experience that Roger's had and the successes he's had all through our nation, it's just, it would be beyond me if you brought somebody in here that wanted to do something else. Even if he was a developer, and you know, a developer, famous saying, there's no better reason than a selfish one. He'd be looking at how much money he could make in the area rather than in the community itself. So I really feel that you should consider this seriously, betterment for the community. And I can remember when this thing first kicked off with Mr. Brooks, if it wasn't for the tenacity of a lot of these businessmen behind me, it would have never happened, because the former mayor was not in favor of it. Neither was the finance director, and most of the city council people were not in favor of it either, if you remember. So I think we have a heck of an opportunity here. The cost is, to me, is very reasonable. So I would hope that you decide to send this on for council approval. So stand for any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Stodick. Any
Thank you.
questions for Mr. Stodick? Very good. Anybody else wishing to address the commission? Very good. We will bring this workshop to a close. And does anybody need a break before we go into our regular business? All right, we are ready to move into the regularly scheduled meeting of the Caldwell Urban Renewal Agency. It's 6:02 and a half in the evening on May 12th, and we will ask our secretary to call the roll, please.
Commissioner Porter,
Here.
Commissioner Brooks,
Here.
Commissioner Warwick. Here. Commissioner Doty,
Here.
Commissioner Moore,
Here.
Commissioner Allgood,
Here.
Commissioner Cole.
Very good. We are all here. Are there any adjustments or corrections to tonight's agenda?
Mr. Chair,
Mr. Allgood?
I do have a update here that we will be removing the special presentation by L.J. Waite from the agenda, and it does not include a reason.
Okay, very good. Thank you, Mr. Allgood. We will just omit that. Are there any items on our agenda this evening that create a conflict of interest with any of the commissioners? And we're seeing none. Brings us to public comments. If there's anybody in our audience this evening that has a matter that they would like to bring before the commission that does not appear on our agenda, now is your time. Good evening, sir. If you could give us your name and your address, we'd appreciate that.
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. My name is Greg Day. I'm with Hunt Day Engineering, and my address is 3445 Antelope Drive, Syracuse, Utah. I'm here representing Maverick over just off Green Road. Absolutely.
When you're done.
Yep. We're just very excited to be a part of the community and appreciate the hospitality and the efforts you guys have put into it. Want to just give you a brief update, as I feel that's probably just a good thing to do and want to do it in person. We secured our permits and we're moving forward with the store. There's currently some work that's being done, I think preparatory work, nothing major just quite yet, but we're moving forward. And hopefully, you know, these stores take 200 days to build, and we feel like it'd be a great asset to the community, and hopefully will be a great service to the members of the community, and they come and buy a drink or a hot dog or something filled with gas. So, any questions the commission has?
Thank you, Greg. Mr. Allgood.
Oh, sorry. No, I don't have a question. Thank you.
Mr. Moore?
So I drove by there the other day, and it looks like they're eating up a lot of those old thistle bushes that have been there for 100 years. And gosh, I remember running around in that. And it's
Yeah.
starting to look a lot better, a lot cleaner, and it's going to be some effective use of that land, I think. It's been sitting there forever. So I appreciate it, and it's looking good there.
Yeah, thank you.
Any other questions for Greg? Greg, I'm sorry I didn't get your last name.
Day, D-A-Y.
Day. Great. Thank you, Mr. Day.
Yeah, thank you.
Brings us to our consent calendar. Do we have a motion as to the disposition of our calendar? Mr. Doty?
Make a motion that we approve the consent calendar.
Okay, we have a motion by Mr. Doty. Is there a second? A second by Mr. Allgood. Would the secretary call the roll?
Commissioner Doty,
Yes.
Commissioner Moore,
Yes.
Commissioner Allgood,
Yes.
Commissioner Cole,
Yes.
Commissioner Porter,
Yes.
Commissioner Brooks,
Yes.
Commissioner Warwick.
Yes.
Very good. Brings us to our update reports on projects going on in the city. The first is from RRC Contractors. Is Mr. Cooper on the line? Okay. Stephen, would, I'm sorry to put you on the spot, Stephen.
You're fine. You're totally fine.
Just a brief update on,
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Appreciate the opportunity to give you guys an update. I've been working pretty closely with Derek Cooper as well as Public Works and Engineering. We are at a place now where the power pole, the power line in the alley is not the bigger problem. It's really, there was a telecommunications line that was in place through, I believe it was Sparklight, and that line was removed recently. That's what I was just questioning Rob McDonald on. So it's our understanding that everything is all clear at this point, and that was the last domino to fall as far as this project is concerned. So Mr. Cooper can move forward, and that is his intent. So you all can see we'll likely see some activity there in the near future. I'm going to be coordinating with him directly on that, but that was what he was waiting for, just to make sure to move things forward and get plans in line for construction and development.
okay. Any questions on that perhaps Stephen could answer?
Mr. Chair.
Ms. Woolley?
So, have you expressed to Mr. Cooper, once he gets going, we'd like to see him here at each meeting? I can't remember the last time we saw him.
Absolutely, Chair, Commissioner Warwick, that is definitely been communicated. Really, it's, because a lot of these concerns or challenges were things that were in the control of the city. It was just hard to come and give an update when really we needed to move things on our side. And I think now that we've successfully gotten there, I think that will open up the door for Mr. Cooper to come and give reports monthly.
Perfect. I'll be excited to see him next month.
Absolutely, thank you.
Thank you, Julie. Thank you, Stephen.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I have a question.
Oh, I'm sorry. Mr. Moore?
Stephen, just looking at that plot there here just this weekend, and that little park that I never knew existed right behind it, there, that memorial. Tell me, what might go on there? Is there anything that's in the plan for something to help boost that building that's going in there and the new Amano building?
Yeah, Chairman, Commissioner Moore, there are plans for that park. It's called Pioneer Park. It's been there for a while, as you know. It's kind of hidden back there. The intent is to activate it more often, so new businesses coming in, such as RRC's building that will bring new life to that space, is something. I know we've had another business nearby that has expressed interest in that parcel as well, to bring outdoor events and activities and things like that. And of course, you understand that we have alley improvements that are planned for the area as well. So all those things combined, I think you're going to see a lot more life being brought to that park.
Yeah.
So we want to accentuate it as more than what we've done historically.
Yeah, I just took a tour there last Monday, and Amano's saying that they might have a drive-through order takeout. And just looking at that right there, I'm like, wow, what a great idea. And then you got a little park right there you can go eat.
Yep.
So great idea. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.
You bet. My pleasure.
Mr. Doty?
Could I just give a kudos to the city too? They got Pioneer Park cleaned up before the soft opening of Amano, so I just want to give a shout out to our Parks and Rec.
And a shout out to you as well for helping get that power pole matter taken care of. It was kind of hanging over us. So
It takes all of
thank
us,
you,
that's
Brad.
for sure.
Yep,
We appreciate
does.
it.
Thank you, Stephen.
Thank you.
Next up is TS Developments and our good friend, Mr. Maybon. Good evening.
Good evening, Chairman Porter, Commissioners. Our update is our design is in design review with the city, waiting for a hearing date for the design review, but it's been there since April 15th. So right before everybody got their taxes done, we got our design review in, but that was one day after our last meeting. So it's there and we're waiting for a hearing date, and that's kind of the next step with the city. So I don't know if anybody has any questions.
Very good. Any questions for Sean?
Okay.
Very good. Thank
All
you,
right,
Sean.
thank you.
Next update is coming from Base Layer, and it's Shane tonight. First question, of course, is Shane, how you doing?
Better now.
Good, good.
Sorry that I missed last update, but I had some health things going on and feeling much better. Thank you very much for your kind words too in your email. It meant a lot. Mr. Chairman and council members, I just wanted to give a quick update on where we stand on several different topics. One being our annexation, and we had intended to be on the calendar for last month, and I think that we just weren't quite far enough along working with staff and Robin and her team to get there. So since that time, we've had some great meetings. Stephen was involved, Robin was on a call with us and our planner and staff, and we've kind of worked through some of what feels like are some final details in our development agreement. And so we're optimistic that we're, ready to go here for this month, and we should be able to work through and annex into the city of Caldwell, is our intent. Through that, I think that, I was reflecting back on just how long it's actually been, and we've been working on this project for about 2.5 years. There's been a lot of thought put into it, a lot of process put into it, and I think that collectively as a team, including the Urban Renewal Agency Board, we've made some great strides, and I think that we're all rowing the boat in the same direction is what it feels like. There's one area within our plan that we have been a little bit passionate about, which is just the use side of things, and in particular multifamily. And we've had some real long discussions, I think, about the area and at what point does multifamily make sense or not make sense on this property and in this area. And I think for us, the way that we're looking at it is we have kind of a clean canvas to work from, and you don't know who's going to come along. And what I've experienced in just in my travels and other markets and things that, where I do business is that you have a vision about one thing, but something else comes along and it seems to make a lot of sense. And you don't have enough information early, maybe in the process, to make a decision on, saying yes or no to certain things. But I guess we would encourage, the city to keep an open mind at this level in our, annexation process, knowing that you, at any other step along the way, would have the ability to set a conditional use permit, or when something is concrete and you can actually get your head around, the details of it. And I look at it from a leadership standpoint. So to be a good leader, you have to be able to have good information and be able to, make decisions based on the information that you have. And it feels like now is not that right time necessarily. So that's one thing that we're, kind of working with staff on and Robin at the city level. So also in the new comp plan, there's an employment center designation that contemplates a wider array of uses. And I think that, we kind of share that vision with that comp plan, and that, down the road, as those uses come along, you don't know who might come along. And so just kind of keep a broad brush at this point, and then you can make those decisions as you go along. From an infrastructure and urban renewal agency investment standpoint, the road network and utilities are being developed and designed. Rob's working on, I think, a refined design, and we'd love to see a civil engineering plan that really sets what those, where those locations are and how they'll operate among, circulation roads and access and things like that. I think we're getting awfully close to being able to re-engage with, end users that have expressed a fair amount of interest in this project, as we've discussed in the past, to be able to say, okay, well, this is the parcel and this is the size of land and here's where you get your utilities and here's how you get onto the property and off. So we're getting closer on that. It feels like we're on the cusp. That'll, I'm sure, come after, the annexation, but we'd like to kind of continue along those lines. And so as we have better information, and then we can prioritize, those projects and put real dollars to them. Once you have a stamped engineered drawing, it gets pretty clear as to what it is you're building. So, and then we just like to understand, I guess, timelines on identifying those projects, and so I just beg that question of the Urban Renewal Agency Board.
By projects, you're talking about the infrastructure, the roads, the water, and so forth. We've been working through the financing portion of that for the last few months. And Raylene, can you speak to that a little bit?
So I know that because it's going to impact the city budget as well, I have been working with Rob as well as Stephen to look at different options. We have not finalized on the city side on how we're going to look into that option. But I think that's the first option we're looking at. And then, as you know, the city budget process goes through the workshops and then ends in August with a final budget. Once we know what city council approves for the final budget on that, I think that will help us determine what URA would be responsible for and what we can do, whether it's LIDs or bonding. So there's a couple of other options that we'll look at as well. But that's kind of the first step that we're working through to finalize. That will give us a known number of what we have left to work with.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you. That's good guidance for us as well. And then there was, we had talked about some discussion surrounding the 5-year kind of design plan for the area. And is that something that that you further discussed about, timing and adopting?
Back to you, Raylene.
So, yes, we presented the mission, vision, and values and goals as a draft. The next step that we're working on, and I'd be happy to send it, but we're working on a SWOT analysis of both the URA areas that we currently have. That shouldn't take too long, but then after that will be, there's a couple other steps before we finalize everything. But the goal was to make it between a 3 to 6 month process to have that finalized.
Oh, great. That's wonderful. And I think you've already answered my other question, so thank you very much. Are there any other questions for me that I can answer for any members?
Sure. Any questions for Shane? Dave?
Mr. Chairman, Shane, thanks for showing up here tonight. I guess I want to ask you, if this thing's not going to move along at a timely process, gosh, I ran into a company and they sure were interested about coming out there. And they said that, and it's a real estate company, and they said, there's a lot of interest in that out there. So if this thing isn't going to go on a time that you think or you guys think that you need it to go, and we got people waiting in line here, what are you guys willing to do? I mean, is it a TIF agreement? Is it a shared? Tell me what you guys are thinking about.
Yeah, well, it's a great question. I think we're very open-minded. We would like to see, what the different options are and kind of, weigh that against timing. Mm-hmm. We've been in some discussions with folks that, and this has occurred over the past several years, where they'll come along and have extreme interest up front, and then, but as as the things we've talked about, utilities and timing and all this stuff, when those unknowns don't get answered, they just have a tendency to either, go somewhere else or wait. And so once we have the ability to make decisions, based on good information, like we were talking about earlier, then we can set some timelines and get concrete answers back to folks. And I think once we do that, we shouldn't have trouble, bringing in solid or keeping solid businesses here in this area. There are several existing businesses in this area that would like to expand and grow, and they're looking for options. And, one is our property, but we don't have those options available quite yet.
Yeah. So, and I think I'm pretty clear on what you're saying, but let me just press this down just a little bit further.
Sure.
So what would those options be? Let's say somebody wants to come in and they're gung-ho and they're ready to go, but we don't have roads, we don't have this, but it's in the process, and then we don't have money to throw. Your ORA does not have funds for that. What specifically are you guys looking to do in your plans? What does that look like?
Yeah, I think that we would be open-minded to some additional TIF, relationships. We would look at, the timing of bonding. I think we would look at, budgets from the city and how the contribution can be made for the overall good. And so, we haven't taken any option off the table at this point from our perspective.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Shane. I think that's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. No more questions?
Wonderful.
Thanks very much.
Have a great evening. Thank you.
Our next update report comes from 7th and Main, and do we have Dean on the line? Very good. If we would invite him in. Dean, are you there?
I'm here.
Very good. Welcome.
Thank you, guys. I'm not sure if Stephen was going to jump in before I kind of stalk through some stuff or not.
He's approaching the microphone now.
Okay.
I can do that. So, Chairman, Commissioners, thank you for the opportunity to share a little bit of context regarding Dean and this project. I had the opportunity to facilitate an introduction between Dean and a hospitality-based project. And Dean, one of the things I appreciate about him, he's always been open-minded to possibilities. And discussions have been positive. They really have. And it's just a matter of now working through the tropes of how this could impact phase 2 and the timing of phase 2. So, working through some of those conversations and a lot of good possibilities, but a lot of questions have arisen because of that, because of this consideration. So as we work through it, it's just a matter of, again, timing and trying to get all the ducks in a row, making sure that it's all lined up well. My goal in economic development, I know Ophelia feels the same way. We want to see the highest and best use on each and every property that we have in downtown. And I know Dean is a fan of that as well, making sure that Caldwell gets the absolute best project for the community itself. I know we talked a lot about Roger Brooks and what he could do to help bring in a lot of momentum and guidance into the future vision for Caldwell. And I'm of the mindset that we've accomplished so many things through not only urban renewal, but just the leadership that we've had here in the city. We want to continue that effort, and this is a project that brings me a lot of excitement. I know it does for Dean and his team as well. So we just wanted to give it the best opportunity to succeed. And in working through that with Dean, I definitely wanted to give it the time that it required to make sure to flesh out all the details. So that's where we're at right now with this project and staff, and as we work through it, making sure that we've kept open lines of communication with Dean and his team, but also the development prospect, making sure that they've been in the loop as well. So we've been actively discussing these things, and we'll be talking about an extension later on tonight, but I want to preface Dean's comments with that, letting you all know that staff has been involved in the background, and we've been working hand in hand with Dean and his team, making sure that we can see this project through, if there's a light at the end of the tunnel. And if so, I can tell you guys with assurance that it would be a pretty dramatic impact to our downtown.
Any questions for Stephen? Thank you, Stephen.
Thank you.
Thank you, Stephen. Appreciate it. Can you guys still hear me?
Yes.
Great. Well, first of all, as always, I wish I could have been there in person Sorry, my travel schedule took me away this month, and last month my wife took me away from the opportunity to come visit you. She is back on her feet. She's 100%, and thank you guys for those of you that reached out with concerns and support. So I really appreciate that. I think it was actually put very well earlier this evening by Shane when he talked about, being able to consider kind of what would be best and having some flexibility to consider what might be out there. I think, if we were farther down the road, with our design process, this probably wouldn't be a part of the conversation. But when I was approached by Steven, if we would be willing to consider a hospitality option, a hotel option in downtown, I said that's what we've always been hoping for as a community from day one when we started the first part of the Tillian project. And so, yes, we were very much open to having that conversation. So when we were approached by Dale King of Faber Construction, who I think is in the audience today and probably could give some more comments in regards to the greater vision of what this project could be a part of, or this parcel could be a part of, we were open to discussing it. My initial pullback from that discussion was, we have been working very hard with the Urban Renewal Agency and the city to try and move forward with the concept with this phase 2, and by the graces of this group, they've allowed us an additional year to get a shovel into the ground. And to be able to even consider this opportunity, we would need some assurances of additional time. And the group agreed, the hospitality group and Dale's construction group agreed that no engagement really wants to happen until late this year or early next year, as this hospitality group is currently working on another hotel in the community. And they're focused on moving that one forward before seeing about kind of a phase 2 or additional hotel into the market. So I agreed with that approach. In talking with Steven and with Mark Hilty, we redrafted the 4th Amendment, which I think some of you have seen. Really, the changes just applied and allowed for an additional year of time to allow us to engage in deeper conversations with urban renewal staff, the city, and with this hospitality group to see if we could bring it to fruition. My hope is that first quarter, second quarter of next year, we will have something and be able to move forward successfully to bring more hotel space into downtown. If that isn't possible, we'll move forward with the current agreement in place, or the amended agreement that we have in place to bring more kind of extended stay or VRBO type units into downtown. So with that, I'm here to stand for questions. I know Dale again is in the audience. I think some of his associates may also be on the call, but happy to discuss any questions that you may have about this opportunity and or other conditions that you may want to consider associated with it.
Thank you, Dean. Mr. King, would you like to fill us in from your side of things from Faber? And welcome.
I would like to give just a tad bit of history to what we were trying to accomplish and do when we first came to Caldwell. So we started this process roughly about 2.5, 3 years ago, visiting with Ed Haw with Hilton on where he would like to see a hotel in the Caldwell area. And he said that if Hilton were to come to the market, he would like to see that hotel on Indian Creek. And so I told him, because we were transitioning to grow our business within the Caldwell Metroplex, we started working with different downtown areas, trying to figure out where we could put a hotel, where we could facilitate it, and all that good stuff. And at that time, I was gracious enough to be introduced to Steven. We talked about different opportunities and doing stuff. We've been down the road and visiting with Rob Pilot here in town, because he owns a substantial piece of dirt in the downtown core. We have gone back and forth. Unfortunately, because of the passing of Rob's mother at the end of last year, it just wasn't good timing. And we know for us, timing is everything, to be honest with you, within construction and the hospitality and creating the environment. So when we saw the fence go back up near the Tillian, I asked Steven at that point in time, hey, what's going on at that particular area? And he said, well, I'm not sure. We got to have a meeting with Urban Renewal in March. After we get an update on that, I can fill you in with what's going on. At that time, he did. He asked if I'd be willing to visit with Dean about doing a JV between the two of us and being able to develop not only with Dean's parcel, but also with the dirt lot parcel too as well. It's always been our vision to have the downtown core because of the simple fact that Caldwell has a beautiful and growing wine industry that has small attributes within the downtown core, but we see that as a huge asset that could be really pushed more in the downtown core and trying to promote that as a business. So it would be more of a Hilton soft brand type of a hotel or a Marriott, but Hilton is the kind of one that I stepped forward with at the very beginning. And it would be tapestry based is what it's called. And what it is, it's a soft branded hotel. And so with that, you have to create a motif for your hotel, what you're trying to do in your rooms, your hotels, and all this good stuff. And so we wanted to dedicate that type of presence to the wine industry, promote it, push it. Rooms would be decored that way. They would look out over the Indian Creek area and back in. And then I know Dean also has LOIs for restaurants for his ground space. But that's what we're trying to accomplish, is making it a uniform, developed hospitality, higher end type of presence for a downtown core, roughly anywhere possible of like 92 to 120 rooms is what we're thinking within that downtown core. But in order to make a hotel successful in your downtown core, you really have to push that type of feel, experience, and all that good stuff. And that's why we're trying to go with a soft branded on that particular area. And we do have ownership groups that are extremely interested in participating in the downtown hotel. We just need time to put that together and see if it's a viable option. The big thing that I wanted to say, especially meeting with Dean, Dean's not the one that's asking for time of extension. It's us that's asking for time of extension. He had his plan put together on developing his particular parcel and moving forward. And we just think it's a wonderful opportunity if we could put a partnership or a JV together to develop across that parcel to give Caldwell what they're looking for, which is a downtown hotel and the synergy it needs to bring people, getting them to stay in the downtown that don't currently live in the downtown core and spend money within that area. And so that's the big point I wanted to try to stress to the board. We're, with Dean's blessing, we're asking to see if you would give him a little bit more time so we could put a project together that we could do jointly. And Dean is 100% committed to urban renewal and moving his plan. We just think it's a wonderful opportunity we don't want to miss at this point in time. I'll stand for questions.
Thank you, Mr. King. You've helped fill in a lot of gaps. Any questions? Mr. Moore?
Hey, thanks for coming tonight. Appreciate it. That's
Absolutely.
interesting. So the tapestry base, I guess that, I was gonna Google it here, but I wanted to hear what you're saying. So I'm sure that means it's gonna have an elevator, right?
Yeah,
So-
yeah, no, so what Tapestry is it's a Hilton branded product, but instead of having Hilton out front or one of their brands like a Home 2 Suites or a Hampton Inn or anything like that, you get an opportunity to bring in the design that you want to have for the hotel. So what they like to see is they like to see, okay, what's the community base that's driving a particular industry that they could speak about to Caldwell. And we saw that, especially with the wine industry that's here in town. It would be a wonderful venue to be able to dedicate that particular hotel to give that experience like, hey, come to Caldwell, stay in the hotel, come out and visit the wine industries. We have tasting rooms downstairs, try to push the redevelopment and vitalization, especially for those wine industries within the downtown core. A perfect example that we've seen as a huge success would be like a downtown Walla Walla in Washington. So yes, all of their wineries sit out on the cool areas, out in the lands where they can have their large wineries and grow their grapes, but their tasting rooms are in their downtown core. And I don't know if you've been able to have the opportunity to go down there in the summertime on the weekends. You can't find a spot to stay. It's extremely difficult within that area. They've had a huge growth, and all those people that are coming from all over the Pac Northwest come to Walla Walla just to visit the wineries and stay and spend money in town. And their downtown core is very eclectic. And that's what we see as kind of that vision to try to create, and being able to utilize Indian Creek with the plaza and having that walkable community. When we see there.
Okay, thank you for that. So another question that I have here, what's the timeline? When can we see this? And then I got a footnote to that. What's the parking gonna look like?
So, very good question. And so there are parking or properties that are available within adjacent to that particular area that we would be happy to step up and bring to the table to increase the parking calculations that we're going to need for the hotel. The parking issue we'll take on, and we'll make sure that not only will we have enough rooms just for our hotel rooms, but we'll also have enough rooms for our commercial space too as well.
So I hear a train coming.
Yeah.
Tell me is that already been addressed?
When you say train coming, you mean
Well, I hear
timing?
one coming now, and there's always an issue
Yeah,
about a whistle.
no,
and
so
nobody likes to stay there, and this, that, and the
the
other.
big thing with trains is we build hotels right on airports.
Yeah.
And runways and all that good stuff. And so it's all about bringing your acoustical engineer to design your hotel with all the insulations and different packages you can have. The biggest thing for hotels is STC window upgrades, which was 2 different sizes of glass, so it doesn't transfer sound noise in between the glass. Now, it's roughly about 25 to 30% more expensive to include an acoustical engineer to the cost of the hotel. But I can literally stand in our hotels that sit on runways and watch a airplane take off, and you don't hear a noise.
Right.
And so we would take that on with an acoustical engineer. And with your higher brand hotels, you're already going to have a Steve rating with that particular brand because they're looking for customer satisfaction. That's already guaranteed within that. Both Hilton and Marriott have those standards. And so you have to meet that sound deadening standard.
Yeah.
So.
Well, thank you, Dale. I'm looking forward to hearing on this.
Any other questions for Mr. King? Thanks so much.
Yeah, thank you.
And Dean, we'll send it back over to you.
Well, I think Dale did a very good job of presenting, how this opportunity came forth to us, to all of us. And the tapestry brand that he's talking about, I needed the same kind of education. Okay, what is that? I've never seen a tapestry sign. It's a boutique hotel that's backed by an international business, providing a lot of strength. So I spent some time after that looking around at, okay, where can you find a tapestry type of hotel? And they're all different. And I think that's the vision that at least I kind of was drawn to when we went through the kind of, if you guys all remember the RFQ process, trying to find a group that would bring that boutique hotel into this area. And we were unsuccessful at that time. I think this kind of hits a lot of marks that we were hoping for in that process. So I'm excited to engage and hopefully bring a solution forward that we all have been hoping for years, and to move a project forward as this parcel, this phase 2 parcel that we've been focused on for a couple of years to be a part of that. Again, as Dale said, he brought the opportunity through conversations with Stephen, and we would love to be a part of that. But knowing that we've all been trying to move another project forward on that site for a couple of years now, understandably, is it worth waiting for getting a hotel there? And my gut said yes. It's worth working through, not to miss an opportunity where you could build a structure that could be there for 50 to 100 years. So with that, I think. Stephen, please correct me, or Mark, please correct me. I think we have an amendment to our current agreement drafted and approved on our side. So I think that either will or has been presented to you guys, and the hope is that we could get that approved and then start engaging in deeper conversations with the hospitality group and with Dale and his construction team.
Very good. Thank you, Dean.
Thank you.
Appreciate you being here tonight.
Again, wish I was there in person.
Okay. Have a good evening.
You too. Thanks.
Our next update comes from Carrie Smith. Carrie, how are you?
I'm good. How are
Good.
you guys? It's great to be here in person. Thank you. I do have a kind of exciting update. We do have a lease that has been offered on the second suite next to Happy Teriyaki. It is still in negotiation. One of the big things that is pending right now is the issue of impact fees, which I know that impact fees were recently increased by the city council, but I'm just going to share some numbers with you, okay? So the impact fee that was given for this use, that the building has already been existing and established, the restrooms are in, the building is there. The impact fee that they negotiated down to was $31,639. The user for this facility is a beverage retail establishment. It's a brick and mortar store. The average generation of revenue for those types of uses is $220,000 to $260,000 a year. They typically range in around a 15% profit margin. That could be $33,000 in the first year. The impact fee is $31,000. Let's just say that they were open 6 days a week. That would be, they would have to make at least $705 a day at $10 an average ticket in person. 5 coffees would be $141 per day. That would require at least 70 customers. And that's the very minimum to make the $30,000 that won't, I mean, it's $33,000. It would cover the impact fees in the first year. I've sat in Stephen and Ophelia's shoes before. A lot of downtowns that are successful are built on the backs of local entrepreneurs. They are the people that go to church with us, their kids go to school with our kids. They are locals. And it's very hard to come and get startup costs, let alone impact fees. And to those that are listening and that are gonna post this on social media, I totally understand that we want growth to pay for itself. But our local entrepreneurs are literally being impacted to where we might not be able to fill a building that has been vacant since it was constructed. It is a detriment. And so there has to be a balance in figuring out ways to charge impact fees where they are appropriate, but support local entrepreneurship in our hometown so that local entrepreneurs can still open businesses and not require main large-scale chains to be the only people that can afford businesses in our downtown. So I will stop complaining, but if there was any way to help, it would be much appreciated. We really do hope that this offer is able to be get across the finish line and get finished, but that is a big hurdle to add on to that ticket price. However, we also are being very optimistic, and we've already had a couple of development meetings regarding the site planning for the grass pad. And so I don't know, half a year ago or so when I was here asking for the development agreement amendment to allow additional time, once we started negotiating on this beverage retail establishment, we immediately started doing the site planning for the next phase. And so we are very excited. Mr. Dancer, still, we need to secure this, the filling of that second suite so that we can actually get submitted on the next one, but we are optimistic. So with that, I will stand for questions.
Very good. Thank you, Carrie. Questions? Mr. Moore?
So I don't know who this is a question for, and I hope this doesn't ask or sound like a stupid request here, but so we just waive this fee, and where does that come from? Is it approved by City Council, Raylyn? Where does that come from? Just curious what's up to date on information on things like that.
So impact fees can be waived, but they have to be offset by a different revenue source. So they're not actually waived, they're just paid by the general fund, which means property taxes or somebody else that's picking up that bill. It's not actually waived. And that's in state code, so.
Are there discounts to that, or is it just, I mean, it sounds like she's asking for 100% of it to be waived, is that right? Or
Rob
is
might
there- what-
actually be able to speak better, because most of that fee, I believe, is traffic impact fees, and there's a process to review those.
Traffic impact fees?
I'm sorry.
Commission and commissioners, so the transportation impact fee is a city council approved fee. The fee is basically established as per the CADS plan, the Caldwell Area Transportation System Plan. But it can be reduced if the developer or the developer's transportation engineer or someone on the developer side can justify why it should be reduced. There's a very, some of you may be familiar with the calculation that's in there. It's a very long calculation to determine what the trip generation is for the type of use and all that, and that's how the fee is calculated. But if the developer can prove that the trip generation is going to be less for one reason or another, and downtown is an example where you may not have as much vehicle trip generation because people are walking more, and even though they're still driving to get downtown theoretically, but they may be visiting several different stores while they're down there. And so there is a way to justify a reduction, and that is permitted by code, but it has to be justified by some kind of study or analysis. I believe it was already reduced some.
A lot,
Okay.
from 48,000 to 30.
And I'm not familiar personally with this particular instance. This goes through the city engineer, but I would be happy to meet with our city engineer and take a look at it.
Mr. Doty?
I would just like to add, I think Carrie makes a good point, especially when it comes to franchises. Franchises can come right in your downtown and pay that fee, no problem. So when certain individuals get very loud with, they want the mom and pop stores, but they want growth to pay for itself, it's exactly what she said. When you're just someone starting out and you're small and you're in our town and it's mom and pop, they don't have that. But I don't want to mention any store names because I don't want to get sued, but other stores, we all know different franchises that are similar to what she described. They can come in and just write that check and take that space over. And so what are we going to do for our mom and pops that want to get started? And do we want mom and pops downtown, or do we want franchises downtown? I would choose the mom and pops in our downtown area, and the only way you can do that is to help them out. And I would also add that other cities are giving a lot of amendments or waivers or help, might be a better way, to many small businesses. And so if we're going to get more business in Caldwell to help offset the tax base, well then, if you're not doing what the city right next to you is doing, it makes it very difficult. Thank you.
Ms. Warwick?
So first I have a question for you, Carrie. So they're going to come in and lease this space, right?
That's correct.
Okay, and this may sound like a stupid question too. So anybody that goes in and leases a space downtown has to pay impact fees? I mean, Raylan, can you answer that? I mean, I'm confused by this whole thing that somebody has to pay impact fees when they're going to be a tenant in an existing building.
Great question, Chairman, Commissioner. An impact fee is going to be owed by anybody that's generating traffic. So if you had a building that was empty, or a new building or a shell, and then a new tenant comes in and they're going to occupy some or all of that building, if people that are going to be patroning that building are generating traffic on the roads, then a traffic impact fee would be required. And I assume that fire and police and parks, not parks, right? Just fire and police, yeah. Those fees would also be required too. That's very typical for a new business or a new business at a certain location.
So we're talking then, it's just a business in a building that hasn't had a business there previously? Is that what we're saying, or any new business that comes into that spot? I mean, say heaven forbid, Happy Teriyaki goes away and somebody else comes in there, that somebody else have to pay impact fees too?
I'm sorry, I missed that last part, but just
So, just as an example,
Yeah.
say Happy Teriyaki went away, somebody came into that space, so the new tenants in a space that's already been occupied are gonna have to pay impact fees as well?
so the new tenant that would come in would pay impact fees if their trip demand was higher than the previous use, and they would only pay the difference.
I see.
So if someone came in that was exactly the same as Happy Teriyaki after them, then their impact fees would be zero because they're not adding any new traffic to the system.
Does that make
I learned
sense?
something new today. Thank you.
So then
Yes.
are you telling me that I need to prove how many people I'm gonna get? Or do you have a calculation that's set for this type of use?
We can meet offline and talk about it. We don't have to do this in front of everybody.
Thanks, Rob.
Mr. Cole?
I
Yeah,
have his
so
number.
my question is, if there is a reduction in the impact fee, does that apply to the prospective tenant only, or would that apply to tenants beyond that? And maybe that kind of goes to her question too.
Good question. The reduction in the impact fee is only justified if there's a study done and it justifies it for that use, right? So it doesn't extend out to other developments that may be at other locations, even if they're similar uses. The reduction is a case-by-case scenario that is evaluated for that specific site. Thanks.
Mr. Moore?
Mr. Chairman, question, Rob. So I think Carrie said that the number was 48,000 at one time, and now it's down to 32 and some change, or 30-something. What caused that windfall?
Commissioner, I would have to review that with the city engineer. I'm not exactly sure how it got to that point or what was looked at
Yeah.
prior.
So I'm kind of scratching my head here going, wait a minute. They were awarded that property in 2019 or 2018, whatever it was. I know I've looked at the RFP. The developer was awarded that or took ownership of it, the landlord. Isn't that an agreement between the new business that's coming in there and the landlord to take that impact fee up? Or is that directly, I mean, can't those two negotiate that and work that out?
Yeah, Chairman, Commissioner, it is a little bit of an odd circumstance where you have a landlord and then you have someone that's leasing the land. And at the end of the day, if someone comes in and builds a shell, we can't charge a traffic impact fee because the building's not being used yet. So the shell could sit there for 3 years without any use. And then when a tenant comes in to occupy the building, then the impact fee is assessed because we know what the use is and we know how to calculate the fee. Whether the owner of the land wants to pay the fee or whether the tenant wants to pay it, it doesn't much matter to the city at that point. The city just, before the building can be completed and before a business can be established, the fee has to be paid. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, I think so, yeah.
And like to follow up on that, obviously, like the fee was assessed during the period where they're looking into permitting. So the retailer or the prospective tenant would be looking at the permitting costs for like an occupancy permit, a business permit. So they're coming to the city getting fees. And then they go back and it does become a negotiation between the owner and the tenant. Just like tenant improvements would be a negotiation of what can be afforded. But again, you've got a local guy who owns the property and a local business who's trying to start up. And either way, it's a pretty big lift. Especially when we're already negotiating a lower rate than anticipated for that structure, for the times that we're in right now.
So, Mr. Chairman, I guess my question is this. If I'm out there in online land watching this, or I'm sitting out in the audience out watching this, or I hear about this secondhand, and I came to town 6 months ago, 8 weeks ago, 8 years ago, and I never received any discounts. How does that set with everybody in the community? What kind of a rift or what kind of a Pandora's box have we opened there with that? And I'm just asking because I know that goes on in Nampa, but I just curious.
Raylene, you look like you want to weigh in on this.
So I just want to talk about, and Stephen can maybe add more, but what goes on in Nampa is Nampa has a revenue allocation area that uses increment to pay there's no reduction of fees. They're using increment money to pay the city. And so that is what's happening. The city's not reducing the fees. Their URA is paying that. In the past, when we had a downtown revenue allocation area, we could have had that type of program.
Right.
If we had a current one, we could do that type of program, but we currently don't have one downtown, so we
Bingo.
cannot do that.
Right.
So,
Okay. So when the balance is zero, where does that come from? I mean, if we don't have money right now, where are we gonna?
you would need to do a new revenue allocation area, a new area, to be able to do that type of program and include the properties, the area that you want to have that type of program.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Carrie?
I do. I've got one more, just an observation. I was getting my mail the other day, and I looked across there, and it looks like the grass on that north side could use a little drink of water on that grass pad. And the side there that used to have the, and I just, just.
Go look.
And the side that used to have the, you could sit there and see what's playing. That hasn't been running. I don't know if it's out or what's going on, but it's a little sketch on that side there. It looks a little dry. So I'm just wondering if the water got turned off or what's going on with it. But it sure doesn't look as green as it has before. And it's always nice to drive by and see that sign to see what's playing.
And the sign's not working?
It wasn't when I looked at it here the last 5 nights I've been down there.
Okay.
Maybe they've got a,
I know the manager of the location, so I'll
Yeah.
give him a call and visit with him.
thank you.
Would you wash and wax my car too, Carrie?
If you give me the keys, I can't promise you I
just
won't
kidding.
drive it
Thank-
fast.
thank
What
you.
what would it cost?
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Brings us to our first item of old business, and that's an action item. And we've heard certain parts of this story already. It's to consider the resolution approving the Fourth Amendment to DDA concerning the Tillian Phase 2 site that both Dean and Dale talked to this evening. Do we need to discuss this anymore? Or are we pretty clear on what's being asked?
I do have a question, Mr. Chair.
Sure.
I'm not sure who's up to answer it, but is a time extension the only change in this amendment, or is there other changes that I didn't catch?
My understanding, it's just the time.
Chairman Porter, if I can jump in here, Commissioners, good evening. There are 2 changes. So schedule of events, there you have the extension to 2026. That's in section 6. And then you also have a change to subsection 2. It's just adding that mixed use that Dean described previously, using that retail and housing for the first and second floor in phase 2. So that's a little bit more spelled out there in Exhibit A1. Those are the 2 changes you're going to see in this amendment.
Thank you, appreciate it. I just want to make sure before we,
Thank you, Chris. Mr. Moore?
Mr. Chairman, question for Taylor. So just looking at this amendment, the section B, agreement to contemplate developer construction of a hotel retail but no housing part. The construction of a hotel and office is no longer feasible on the subject property as a result of a variety of factors, including without limitation changes in the financial lending markets, construction industries, demand and industry interest, and developer has requested agency to modify the potential scope of Phase 2 project. So I'm reading this, and just correct me if I'm wrong, because I'm not an attorney and I'm not a developer, but just looking at this, it pretty much says that the developer is no longer obligated to put up a hotel in section B?
Sure, Commissioner Moore. So what that's kind of spelling out, and obviously this would need to take on further amendments should there be some other re-envisioning of how this project could look. But what it's spelling out further, again, in that subsection 2 where it describes phase 2, it's opening it up for that mixed use and no longer for the hotel purpose. So I think when you read those 2 in conjunction, it is kind of spelling out more of that mixed use with the retail and housing rather than the hotel project, if that is answering your question adequately.
I guess, that might have went over my head, over my pay grade.
So when you read the phase 2 description of what a phase 2 project means, the definition there, and you read it again with the exhibit A1, that's kind of describing what that's gonna look like.
Right,
And
okay.
it doesn't include the hotel description in there.
So, am I correct to say that Mr. Pape, Dean Pape is no longer responsible to put up a hotel on that lot by this section, in section B there, as it says, no longer feasible on the subject project.
Sure, and these first three subsections are kind of almost recitals in a way, kind of telling you exactly what the purpose of this amendment is for. And so, and Dean's happy to jump in here, I think he's still on the call if necessary, but what this is trying to explain is just that, is that the hotel is no longer the primary consideration and that we're focusing more on that mixed-use project.
Okay, thanks for that clarification. And then I got another question here on section 4. Attachment, schedule of a performance. Gosh, I would think that would have a variety of information there that might be included or excluded from what the developers to do, and I've never seen anything, any part of that information. It was never included to us in our packet.
Commissioner Moore, so I apologize, I am looking at a schedule of performance. I believe that was added to your packet maybe late. I'm looking at the deputy city clerk for clarification on that.
I don't know.
Okay.
Debbie handled that, so I don't know.
Is it on there?
Page 29 of your packet, see if that's what you're looking for.
Yeah, I mean, this one that I have is, and I printed off and stopped it.
I see it here.
So tell me this then, what's the liability, what are we giving up by, on that page, and I'm going to it right now. What does that mean that we are entering into or not entering into? Did I?
I'm happy to give some historical background if that helps.
I'd like to hear that from Taylor if I could. If you don't, no, it's all right.
Are we on the same page here? We're looking at the schedule of performance, and what's your specific question on that?
I guess the schedule of performance, explain that to me. What more does that need? Because I have not seen this. What does that basically mean that we're taking out of? We're not going to perform. He's not going to perform.
Sure, so the only change to the schedule of performance is going to be in that subsection 6, the commencement of construction. The only addition there is going to be the changing of the year. So originally it was a December 1st, 2025 date. Now, to allow for further communication and further negotiation to take place, we're extending that date 1 year to December 1st of 2026. So this schedule of performance is the only change with this amendment here.
So I can only deal with what I have in front of me here, okay? And if there's something else that Dean's working on, maybe Dean wants to elaborate, I guess I don't know, anything about that, and I'm looking at this, and I know there was obligation to build a hotel originally, and we've gave numerous extensions or amendments to this.
So today in front of you is the action item to consider the resolution for this amendment. So it's the agency's prerogative to consider what's being proposed currently and
Right.
communicate with Dean on that. If that's not to the commissioners and the agency's satisfaction, we can go back to the drawing board with Dean on the call and kind of figure out what that looks like. But as of right now, this is kind of contemplating two different proposals, right? We have this potential for this mixed use rather than a hotel. But we also have this carved out in the schedule of performance that potentially there's a new kind of project that's on the horizon, and we're allowing more time for that to be contemplated. So that's
So
kind
that
of how I'm summarizing that.
Sorry, that project that's on the horizon, that's between Dean and somebody else, correct?
It is.
I just think we're a little premature with this, Mr. Chairman, with this agreement. I think there's too many things going on, but I would like to hear what Dean has to say if we could.
Yeah, I'm happy to dive back in. I appreciate the opportunity again. I think the clarity that you're asking is pointed, because when I first read it, I said, should we be actually saying that we're not building a hotel? And that's not what it really means when I talk to Mark about it. The intent is that we spent the time and energy to try and do that. And as we were working through that and brought this amendment to you guys, was actually 2 months ago, if not more, with the intent of saying, hey, we're going to move forward. When I presented it to you, we'd like to move forward with this kind of VRBO, this kind of looks and feels like an apartment building or a condo building, but is really acting like a long-term stay hotel. Soon after that is when I was approached by Stephen and Dale soon after that with the conversation of there's a greater vision that could happen with this property. And my first angst was, as I mentioned earlier, we are way down the road on this process, but I'm not going to close the door to something that I know that we've been trying to do for many years and hate to miss that opportunity by moving forward with the current agreement that we have in hand. So really all that was changed outside of some verbiage in the agreement was the timeline. And that timeline just allows for the time for us to move forward and engage with this group to see if there's a viable path forward to success, to get a hotel, a boutique hotel, into the downtown. Now this group could say, not enough information or sorry, and with that, I would probably have to tell Dale and his team, thank you, but no thank you. We need to move forward with the conditions of the original amendment that we put forward in front of you guys a couple months ago, get that approved so that we can move forward with that extremely fast so that we can meet the terms of that agreement. So really all we were asking for with the approach from Dale and his group, and which I think is a much better option for downtown, is the time to see if that's viable. If it's not, we move forward with what we have in hand right now, but it gives us the time to engage with this group to see if there's a viable option for success.
Mr. Chairman, I think that we've heard from Dale tonight. That sounds like a pretty neat project. I think I've just heard Mr. Page's statement here. I would think we'd want to table this maybe for another week, or maybe more discussion, whether it's a workshop on this particular deal, but I think we're giving up. I think it's too much for one night here for me. So, but I appreciate your explanation, Dean, and I understand that. I think they've got some stuff to work out on their side.
Ms. Warwick?
Thanks, Dean, for coming back. This is what we've been asking for, as you know, for years, for literal years, since before Tillian started. We wanted a hotel on that site. Thank you for being open-minded and being willing to work with somebody, even after all of the work that you've put in trying to put something different there when the hotel didn't work out. I don't think, honestly, that we're giving up anything other than a little more time. And it doesn't sound like you may even need all of that time. You know, if for some reason it doesn't work out, then you could proceed sooner, I think, than the extension that we're giving you in this is what it sounds like. The December 1, 2026 sounds like that's how long it will take if we're going to actually get what we've dreamed of for all of these years. It may take that long. So I think it's a marvelous idea, and I love the idea of the hotel that was presented, something that's basically original, and there wouldn't be anything else like it because it's going to be designed to reflect our area. And I think it's a fabulous idea.
Mr. Cole?
Yeah, so I just have a question. What is the original date of completion? So this extension allows for December 1st, 2026. What is the current time?
It's commencement of construction,
Yeah.
which would be December 1st of 2025. So we need to sprint.
That's what the current one is. So you're just
Correct.
extending it 1 year is what you're saying then, right?
Yep, and as I mentioned earlier, the intent is kind of, in what we've heard from the operators was they want to get through the end of this year and engage early next year to put a plan of attack together because they're focused on the current hotel that they're working on in the community. So once they're off and running with that, they can then spend the time to focus on this opportunity. And my hope is, Q1, Q2 of next year, we're coming back to you with a collaborative effort, both with staff to say, we think this is the viable opportunity to move forward with what we've all been trying to figure out a solution for many years. But all it does is extending that time. If we find out that it's not viable, I'll be coming back to you and saying, we have an agreement in place and we're going to move forward much faster than the end of next year to get a shovel in the ground. Honestly, I'd love to have a shovel in the ground during the summer months, not the winter months.
So do you need an extension for 1 year or 6 months? Would you know better 6 months from now, or?
I think we'll know a lot more. I'd rather have the time for a year because, again, I've mentioned before, I'm not a hotel operator or developer. And what we've been advised by them is they'll need through the year to be able to come back and meet the condition. Now, remember, you still got to go through design and permitting and everything else to get a shovel in the ground, which is what that document says.
Mr. Chair.
Ms.
So,
Warwick?
so maybe we have still Dale here, right? Could Dale come up and kind of give us some information on this, please?
So normally, thank you, commissioners, by the way, for letting me take this question. So normally, when you start to plan for a particular hotel, you actually go through what they consider a schematic rendering. And so a schematic rendering, the architect will put that together, we'll put cost details, tie in, we'll go back to the JV. No, historically, that takes about 2 to 3 months as we go through that particular processes. Then what we do is we go to design for the hotel, room layouts, all this good stuff. And after, because we start to permit with the city under those, then when we get to the very end of it, we go to what they call CDs, construction drawings for your final permit processes. And in that time frame too as well, you're now going back to Hilton because they've got to approve layouts for floor plans and all that good stuff. So from start to finish, you're looking roughly at anywhere from 6 to 10 months just for the planning of the hotel. Then you submit to the city for your permitting, and that could take an additional 2 months for the permitting processes. So to have a shovel in the ground, I tell people it's roughly about 10 to 12 months.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Ms. Warwick?
Mr. Chair, I'd actually like to make a motion that we approve the Fourth Amendment to the DDA concerning Tillian Phase 2.
Okay, we have a motion by Ms. Warwick. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Second by Mr. Brooks.
Mr. Chairman,
Further
I
discussion?
have one more question before we make a motion.
For Mr. King?
No, for you. So I'm just not comfortable with this section B here. I mean, construction of a hotel and office is no longer feasible on the subject property as a result of a variety of factors, including without limitations, changes in financial lending markets. So if something should go awry between the two, then that property, there's no longer an obligation to put up a hotel, is the way I'm understanding that. Is that right? By the developer. We're providing an out for the developer to, Mr. Pate, to not have to produce on the original commitment of a hotel. And I think that this whole thing tonight is quite a bit. There's a lot of moving targets. We still got to figure out about parking. We're trying to do quite a bit here tonight that I would say we need to talk about.
Mr. Chair, the way I understood it, the developer's already off the hook for a hotel. We've already approved him into planning something different there. So right now, he's under no obligation to put a hotel on that site. We're giving him the opportunity to try to get a hotel on that site. And they need a little more time to be able to do that. Otherwise, he's going to be bound to put on that site what he's already agreed to do.
Right, I understand that, but I did not know that he's not off the hook.
Oh, he's not on the hook for a hotel currently.
I guess she's been listening to the attorney more than I have. So could you clarify on that?
It's my understanding as well that this is already kind of the piece that's been done previously, and that the only additional changes are that schedule of performance and then the clarification of what that Exhibit A would be, which is the mixed use. So
I sure missed that. Okay, thank you.
Okay, we had a motion by Ms. Warwick and a second by Mr. Brooks. Any other questions or conversations or comments? Would the secretary call the roll?
Commissioner Warwick?
Yes.
Commissioner Doty?
Yes.
Commissioner Moore?
No.
Commissioner Allgood?
Yes.
Commissioner Cole?
Yes.
Commissioner Porter?
Yes.
Commissioner Brooks?
Yes.
Thank you, Dean. Thanks for weighing in and taking all the questions. And thank you, Mr. King.
Thank you, guys. Look forward to more conversation next month.
Brings us to our first item of new business, and that's to consider approval of the resolution accepting a proposal from ArchNexus. Good evening again, Raylene.
Good evening, Commissioners. I have several of ArchNexus on Zoom, as well as Adam Garcia here to answer any questions about this proposal. Myself and Jim have been working with them, answering their questions about the new area in the north that we've been talking about. This is just a proposal, and we would work to do a contract that would finalize everything. But this really approves this proposal to let me go ahead and do that contract. So if you have any questions, I would turn it over to Arch Nexus.
Any questions for Raylan? Okay, we will turn it over to Adam and your associate. And your name again, sir?
Mr. Commissioner, thank you, Commissioners. Adam Garcia, and Raylan forgot about me already, it looks like. Things are a little bit more intimidating on this side of the panel. First of all, thank you for the opportunity to submit a proposal. Very excited about this. Before I introduce my other associates, just want to thank you for the opportunity. Also very happy to see that this part of Caldwell is being considered as part of the URA district. And very happy to see that, as we all know, and me living here my whole life minus the last 2 years, so that puts me in, what, 30 years? Actually 50 years. Seen a lot of things happen, as Mr. Moore said earlier today. Things doing well, going bad, doing well again. So, but this certain part of the area of Caldwell always seemed to kind of stay stagnant, stay consistent, always kind of been the sore area of Caldwell. So it's good to know that finally there's some eyes on it now, particularly with URA. And our team is willing to kind of work with that, especially if Mr. Brooks gets brought on. We want to make sure we work well with him, make sure we don't duplicate information, and we provide information if you guys want us to with him. Make sure we work well there, so that way the money gets spent correctly. So with that being said, I want to introduce 3 folks on our call right now, which is Mingna Dalbury. Is that how you say it, Mingna, your last name? Dalbury, right? And then Peter
Dalbury,
McBride.
you got it.
Okay, Peter McBride and Steven Springer. So Mingna would be our principal in charge of this project. Sorry, I got allergies today, so my throat's kind of seems a little deeper than normal. So, but anyways, any questions on the proposal? I'll let Mingna kind of answer those.
Yeah, thank you very much for the opportunity. We're very excited to have the opportunity to work with the URA and with the community to have an impact in this area. As we've learned more about Caldwell, we've been very excited to and appreciated the things you've been able to do, the great leadership that the city has had, and really the results are there at a level that's above what we see in other places that have even more resources. With Adam's knowledge of the place and with our experience kind of regionally and nationally, we're very excited to be part of this. We've described our scope in the proposal, and so I won't take up the time to go through each point, but we're happy to answer any questions and to begin work at your direction. And thank you to Commissioner Porter and to Raylan for answering all the questions and just generally being really great to work with and quick to respond. And we've really appreciated that. I'll let Stephen and Peter introduce themselves as well with Nexus.
Can't hear either one of you.
All right, can you hear me now? There we go. Sorry, my local mic was on mute, not my computer. So, my name is Steven Springer, one of the partners here with Mingna and Peter McBride on the call. I'm over the civic sector of our firm. Love to see the energy that's being driven into Caldwell. As an Idaho native, I just love the development and the direction that is starting to be engaged and supported in communities like Caldwell. So I'm excited to be a part of the team and participate in where I feel that my expertise can benefit, and I'm looking forward to working with the city of Caldwell.
And I'm Peter McBride, architect and principal at Architectural Nexus, working with Mingna, Stephen, and Adam. I focus a lot on design, on community engagement, and really understanding a community's involvement and love for
where they live and the place that they live in, the neighborhood and the community, and I'll be able to help out in that regard. So looking forward to it.
Thank you. Any questions from anybody?
Any questions for Adam and the Arch Nexus team? Chris?
Yeah, Adam, it's good to see you.
It's good to see everybody.
So one of my big concerns, and I'm glad to see you here because you've been through a lot of the urban renewal stuff for a long time. You understand where I'm coming from. In our previous urban renewal work, we've always developed really blighted bare land. This is kind of our first step forward into occupied land. This whole area is residential, some commercial. And so my concern is as your team does this feasibility study, you know, when you put up a big commercial building on a piece of bare land, the value goes up instantly. Well, this is going to be different in generating increment because we're basically doing a house at a time or a street at a time, and my concern is, will we have the ability to generate increment in a residential area? Am I making sense, Adam?
Yes, I fully understand what you're asking, because those are always kind of the concerns of existing areas. So as we go through the properties, and I know the area very well, there's areas that, you know, houses are condemned, some aren't. There's lots that are empty, and then we also want to take a look at kind of the main thoroughfares through the properties. And so part of this feasibility study is we look at those areas and paint a good picture to the council here of what's the possibility and what those tank increments would be for the city and how that would come back to you. So that's what we would do there. But yes, you're right. That becomes a little bit more challenging. But then we would look at more of like, let's say, multifamily housing, you know, relocating of, you know, old buildings to another location, rent those out as well, as the Caldwell Housing Authority's done with the Rice House. As we all know, we see slow growth happening there, but just not fast enough or not enough. And that's the purpose of the, you know, URAs to provide that spark.
Right.
So I think with us, not only looking at the residential part of it, but also looking at the properties to the west, looking at the properties to the east of that, on the other side of 12th Street, and how all that ties in with downtown and the county. So we'll take a look at all that as part of the feasibility study and kind of look at those areas that we think could help out. You know, not only provide you a clear picture of what's there now, but what the potential would be, is what our goal is with the feasibility study.
I know there's a lot we want to get accomplished down there. There's a lot of work to be done. I just want to make sure we can generate an increment enough to get those things done, you know. And that's what I'm hoping you guys can identify and help us out with.
I think the challenging part of that will be finding those property owners that own property that nobody seems to know who owns it, or that person passed away, if you know what I mean. So,
yes.
So those are going to be, I think, some of the challenges we're going to have, because those are nice pieces of property that could be developed. And I think when a developer finds out the UR takes on the district, you'll have more interest in those areas. So we provide that nice picture. I think that will help out.
Thank you, Adam.
To add to Adam's response, we do see, exactly as he mentioned, we do see some sites that are underdeveloped or that have the potential to be developed more, and there is a benefit that happens to the entire area from those being developed. And we'll work with Zion's Public Finance there on our team as well, and they have experience kind of really digging down and identifying what is the impact both in the commercial and industrial areas and in the residential areas. So yeah, that's something we'll consider.
Any other questions? No? Raylan, how do we pay for this?
This will come out of operating funds, so this is not tied to any specific increment from any revenue allocation area. It's just from operating from previous lease agreements or that we've accumulated over the last 20 years.
Is this the kind of a matter that's subject to us needing to send it out for an RFP, or are we able to make a decision?
No, because it is professional services, there's not a need to do an RFP. I will say when we were looking for the site-specific for Fifth in Chicago, that there was quite a bit of trying to pinpoint a contractor for professional services, and it was very difficult to find agencies or businesses that did feasibility studies that had the knowledge to do it. And so I will say it was definitely a benefit for ArchNexus to come along. So.
Thank you. Other questions? Okay.
Well, thank you for the opportunity. It's good to see everybody.
Thank you, Adam. Well, it is an action item, and do we have a motion as to the disposition of the resolution?
Mr. Chair,
Ms. Warwick?
I move that we accept the resolution accepting the proposal from ArchNexus associated with the feasibility study for the proposed urban renewal agency.
Okay. We have a motion by Ms. Warwick. Do we have a second?
Second.
A second by Mr. Doty. Any other conversation or questions? The secretary call the roll.
Commissioner Warwick?
Yes.
Commissioner Doty?
Yes.
Commissioner Moore?
Yes.
Commissioner Allgood?
Yes.
Commissioner Cole?
Yes.
Commissioner Porter?
Yes.
Commissioner Brooks?
He has had to step away, so he is excused. So. Okay, thank you, Adam, and thank you, team.
Thank you.
Brings us to our second action item under new business. Consider invoices for payment. Raylene?
I just got 2 invoices this month, $18,900 for the May economic development contributions and $6,800 for April attorney services for a total of $25,700.
Any questions? Do we have a motion? Ms. Hogan?
Mr. Chair. We accept, we pay those invoices.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Ms. Warwick, a second by Mr. Allgood. Would the secretary call the roll?
Commissioner Warwick?
Yes.
Commissioner Doty?
Yes.
Commissioner Moore?
Yes.
Commissioner Allgood?
Yes.
Commissioner Cole?
Yes.
Commissioner Porter?
Yes. And now to our treasury report.
Yes, so in April, the north area, we had an increment of just over $3,600. I do see the east area starting to slow down. But as you know, we still have some outstanding past dues. And so when we get our larger payment in July, that will probably have hopefully the remaining past dues, or at least the majority of it. We are still gaining interest in our Banner Bank of almost $3,600 for the month of April. And when you're looking at this report, as I was referring to the operating, it is that top line on the bottom, which is just our cash and the total cash. So you can see between LGIP and that, it's just over $3.8 million between what we have available in operating. I don't move any out of LGIP, and I won't until we absolutely need it. Okay. It'll stay in there. So, and then as the second page, which is our bank reconciliation, you can kind of see the breakdown of each of the separate bank accounts. But I'll stay in for any questions on those.
Any questions in regard to the cash reconciliation report? Do we have a motion?
I move that we accept the treasury report.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Mr. Allgood, a second by Ms. Warwick. Would the secretary call the roll?
Commissioner Allgood?
Yes.
Commissioner Cole?
Yes.
Commissioner Porter?
Yes.
Commissioner Warwick?
Yes.
Commissioner Doty?
Yes.
Commissioner Moore?
Yes.
Okay, and now on to our project list.
Our project list hasn't changed too much just because even though we have projects, the city is only billing quarterly to us. And I will say the vineyards and the alley improvements are in progress, but it is a slow go project because we are working with the utility companies. the Ustick Road over Indian Creek is in process, so we should see that budget deplete pretty readily. And then I'm working with Robin on the downtown signage because Destination Caldwell has completed their portion of it, so.
Any questions as to the project list?
Raylene, what do we have left, and maybe Mr. McDonald can answer, on project number 7, do you have that in front of you?
So there's $40,514, and what that will help with is, I know we have to do some utility movement right over here for TS Development, so that will help pay for that.
Oh, so we're still involved there,
Yes.
okay.
Okay, good question. Okay, thank you, Raylene. Brings us to our economic development reports. Mr. Jenkins?
Chair, Commissioners, thank you for allowing me to share these updates. I just have a few in the North Caldwell area. You all just heard from Maverick earlier this evening, and they shared a great update with you all. They're going to start construction very soon. They closed on the property last week, so exciting things ahead. You all should be solidifying a TIF agreement in the near future. They've been working with city staff related to infrastructure that's going into the site to accommodate projects that are upstream from their project. So all in all, it's going to be a very impactful project, not just from the perspective of momentum, but also for infrastructure that's coming into the area. They want to open by later this year, which is a great sign for us and the area as a whole. Weather-tight roofing, they're patiently awaiting a water line to access their site in order to prepare for development. They own 2 smaller properties that are in the southwest corner of this district. And unfortunately, we just don't have the infrastructure to them yet. They are still planning on an expansion. This is a group that is based in Caldwell that's looking to grow. So my hope is that we can get them the line that they need to expand their operations here in Caldwell, which is a good sign for us. The Kelly property, it's 34 acres just north of District 26, and they're eager to annex into the city of Caldwell. They're actually preparing to have a neighborhood meeting to prepare for the steps that are necessary for annexation. So again, very eager to get going. I met with them as early as 2 weeks ago, and they are very anxious to get a project going. They're planning a smaller industrial project there that will feature about roughly 30 to 32 smaller buildings. So spread across that acreage there. So maybe a small industrial park is what they're considering there. Project features, we submitted a site in North Caldwell. It's a Department of Commerce lead. We get leads from the state periodically. They come in the form of requests for information, RFIs. And in this case, we submitted a property out there. And this manufacturer is seeking 6 to 7 acres. It'll be a $40 million investment, and they'd add 65 jobs. So we're hopeful to get a response on that. And Emmanuel, I don't know if you have this document readily available to pull up or not, but I've got some graphs that I like to show periodically. The answer is no, so I'm just gonna shoot from the hip here if you guys don't have it in front of you now. But ultimately, change in population from 2020 to 2024, if you all can see this visual, don't know if you're looking at that in front of you or not, but ultimately it shows Canyon County, if you guys can see that, and we're growing at plus 10% nationally, so one of the higher averages across the nation there. And then on the second graph that I have here, the states that have reduced taxes since 2000, Idaho is number 2 in the nation in terms of the second most reduced taxes that are there. I'm sorry, Montana's number 2. Idaho's in the green as well. We're at a negative 2.50%. So we're in the top 10 there, but very good in terms of our averages for the reductions in taxes, which is a good thing. America's $29 trillion economy. Looks like we're trying to pull this up. Emmanuel, you're the man. I love this. Okay, so if you go down a little bit more, we're in the blue chart there. Keep going. One more. Yep, there it is. Perfect. So we've got Idaho's contribution to this economic GDP impact here through America is $130 billion. And you guys can see in the Rocky Mountain region, it's on the left-hand side of this pie chart here, we are behind Utah, which is $303 billion. The Salt Lake region is the major engine behind that economic force of Utah, and they're at 1.2 million people. We're in the Treasure Valley. We're really the economic engine for Idaho, and we're at 900,000 people. So that gives you a little bit of perspective there. So we still have some ground to make up. We do have a lot of ag tech industries here in Idaho, and as we diversify our economy, I can see that number ticking up quite a bit over the years. So that's, just wanted to show that quick update. And then we have one more that's there. Emmanuel, if you can scroll down. Thank you so much. These are tariffs, and we've talked a lot about tariffs of late. So the new U.S. tariffs introduced a universal 10% duty on all imports. That was effective April 5th, 2025. And we have reciprocal tariffs that are shown here. The countries that were hit the hardest were countries in Asia and Europe. So as of today, I don't know if you guys saw the news here. I was on the treadmill reading this, so I might butcher some of this, but ultimately, United States and China agreed to a 90-day deal that would suspend those tariffs for each other's goods, and they were cut from 125% to 10%. So that was a pretty major announcement. It made the economy really shake in a positive way, I think, and the stocks were showing more of a positive sign. But you guys can see here the reciprocal tariffs that were more historic, and of course, I prepared this a few weeks ago, and that's how quickly life is changing on us. These things just happen so rapidly, so I try my hardest to keep up. But this gives you a little bit of perspective, because I don't think a lot of people understand the data behind the tariffs and how historic it is. And of course, America's playing a little catch up. So, and I don't know if you have one more graph there, Emmanuel. I added this late. Oh, I do. Yes, perfect. So maybe two more. I don't know. But there's this is from Site Selection Magazine. This is some data related to how companies and executives select locations across the country, and you guys can see that quality of life is number one, which is a positive component for Idaho. Corporate tax rate is close second, number two. And of course, in Idaho, we're pretty conservative on some of that, but in a nutshell, we compete pretty well across the country, as you guys have seen of late. And quality of life continues to be a major draw to our region, which is going to lead us into the future as we grow. And there might be one more. No, okay, no more. All right, so I added this one late. I apologize. This one was actually one that refers to top 10 job aspirations for Gen Alpha. And Gen Alpha is basically babies that are born now until I think the gap is from birth to about, I think it's 14 years old or something like that. I know all my kids are in this Gen Alpha range, which made me more concerned. But the top 10, in terms of the top job that group is aspiring to be, it's a YouTuber. So just so you guys know that's what folks want to be these days. Also, number two is a TikToker, so a TikTok creator. So our future is rather bleak, and I hope to do my part in my family to lift the tide there. But just want you guys to know that we're in Caldwell, we're trying to build up manufacturers. So that's what I'm doing in my household. I want them to build widgets one day, not be a YouTuber or TikToker or whatever the case is. So just want to, I added that graph late, I apologize. But anyways, that's all I have, and I stand for any questions you might have.
Thank you, Stephen. Any questions for Stephen this evening? Great. Well done. Thank you. Ophelia?
Good evening. I'm going to go ahead and make mine short. I have about 2 more miles to get in for my day. My husband just texted me that we still have a 2-mile walk that we have to go to. So URA updates. So just for our downtown, there are currently no projects slated for 5160 Main and 119 South Kimball Avenue. So the rest of the projects you have heard from those developers tonight. General downtown updates. We had a great Cinco de Mayo. It was pretty windy out there, but we had a great crowd. I heard from some of the businesses today that they were very happy to see heavy traffic through their restaurants and spaces, as well as Mother's Day. One of the businesses that I visited with today said they had, typically their Cinco de Mayo is well attended. However, Mother's Day beat that. Also ran into one of the florists at Caldwell or at Albertsons today, and they sold out of flowers. So it's been great here in Caldwell. Destination Caldwell also shares that their video board is up and running, and they were able to utilize that during Cinco de Mayo. So we're excited for them and the great things that they'll be doing with that video board. Mono had their soft opening. If you haven't had a chance to have dinner there, please patronize their space. They've done a wonderful job. They do plan for a grand opening later this month, so we'll keep you posted on that. Another new business that came into the downtown area is inside Oaks Brothers, Fire and French. They're handcraft, jewelry, and custom. We're super excited when we see those permits come through. And just to piggyback on Steven's tariffs comments, I was chatting with one of our downtown businesses, and she is terrified. So the tariffs have impacted her business, so we'll kind of just keep an eye on that and see how that goes. But those are all my updates that I have for tonight, and I'll stand for any questions.
Any questions for 2 Mile Ophelia? Chris?
You mentioned a new jewelry shop.
Yes.
Where's that location at?
They're inside the Oaks Bros, towards the back of where Idaho Spice is located, so on the main level of Oaks Bros.
Okay, I'll have to report that to my wife.
Oh, yeah, she'll love it.
Great, thank you, Ophelia.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Brings us to our attorney reports, and we're glad to have Taylor here with us tonight. How are you?
Commissioners, good evening. Nice to be here with you all today. So just 2 quick updates. The first one being on the feasibility study that we are waiting on for the Genki project, the site-specific area there. Once that's done, we'll keep moving along there, and we'll make sure to get that planning process done with that area, keeping the new area moving along within the time frame. So any questions?
Any questions on
On that?
the Lee Genki project site? Okay.
Okay. The next one I have on my list here is that the new site that we spoke about earlier this evening in the meeting, just a little tickler that we really want to try to get that moving along. Again, these things take months, as seems like to be the running theme with all of these different projects, as we can all appreciate construction and just timelines of contracts and all of that. So we'd really like to see some direction on where the agency would like to see that new area set up. In our office, we're kind of hoping that we can put something forward by that meeting in June, so that way we can get it in front of City Council and keep things moving by the end of the calendar year. So if this opens up a little bit more directed discussion about it tonight, I would appreciate it. Or if the agency's kind of set on something, just some direction to staff on how we can get that in front of you all and in front of council quickly.
Any questions for Taylor?
No, just, isn't that way, Mr. Chair, that we approve the feasibility study for us, so that map is solidified, and so I guess for Taylor, we'll have to see if it comes back worth it or not, and
yeah,
I'd hate to tell you to do all that and then it comes back, but as soon as it comes back, we'll discuss it as quickly as possible, I would think.
I believe so, and I think, again, our goal is for that to be done in June. Hopefully, we can get that wrapped up and presented to all of you and get some feedback and keep it moving along.
I'm not sure that the study will be done quite that quickly, but
Probably not.
Raylene, what do you?
Not the big area.
So the timeline proposed is till October. So because it is going to be a full comprehensive study, and with all those properties, that is very time consuming. So that proposal is going to take until October, which is, I believe, the appropriate time frame for that bigger area to get done before the end of the year. And so I think there's steps between that have to happen by city council, like declaring the area. And
Blighted and all of that, yeah. I think with the approval of this evening's decision with the feasibility study, we're moving in the right direction with all of that, so.
Any other questions? Chris, any questions? Okay.
Thank you.
Very good. Thank you, Taylor. That brings us to our commissioner reports. Mr. Doty?
I did go to Amano's this last week. Actually, I think I've been in there 3 times already since Ophelia took me in there. Got me hooked. So it's very nice. If you haven't gone in there, go in and look at it. Don't be bashful about asking to look around and all the different locations. So it really is coming along, and I know they're doing a grand opening, but it was completely packed the night I went in there. So they're doing great things, and there are people in there eating at that facility. So it's great. Thank you.
Mr. Warwick? Okay. Mr. Cole? Mr. Albee? Mr. Moore?
We've got a Lions ribbon cutting Saturday at noon, the 17th. We're expecting a lot of people. There's a lot of food, and there's going to be a lot of good things going on there. Salvation Army is hosting its 75th anniversary dinner event at the Canyon County Expo. So that's Saturday night as well. Yeah, looking forward to it. So I think that's about all we got going on.
Great. I just have a couple of things to speak to tonight. We may be looking at a special meeting in the next week or two. There's a couple of things that have come up, and one is the feasibility study on the Lee Jenke project. We expect to have LJ's work in our hands in the next week to 10 days. We would like to get it through our body before LJ goes on vacation and we never see him again. So that will be coming up. There's also a special thing that we need to look into. There's a piece of property that's going to be developed in the north area, but there's a responsibility to get a road built that has been the city's responsibility that may be needing to be assigned to us. Rob, do you want to speak to that, on that?
It has been another developer's responsibility.
Thank you.
Yeah, I don't want to say too much. I don't know if this is the right. Yeah, it's basically, the urban renewal will be taking over a responsibility that a developer has, and this in turn, the developer would be assisting another developer, and so it's basically urban renewal helping subsidize some development, is what it comes down to, in a nutshell.
Thank you. Sorry to park the bus right on top of you.
I'm not sure that added more questions or took away some.
I will say it's it's very exciting. It's very exciting. As we get closer to developing projects for the central Caldwell allocation area, I'd love us to hold some neighborhood meetings or some open forums where people from the neighborhood can actually come in and speak to their concerns. And we've had Miguel Orozco come in a couple of times, and I'm sure we would just love to have the feedback from the people that actually live in these neighborhoods and let them know that their needs and wants are being addressed. Finally, I got a note from Santiago from the Base Layer group. He was asking for a letter of support to put in their package to take before City Council next week. Basically that the Urban Renewal Agency supports their move toward annexation. And I think it's a no-brainer. We've been waiting for them to do that for quite a while, so I will compose a letter and send it out to everybody, but we would like to include that with their packet if there's no objections. And with that, we will stand for adjournment.